Hi, well, good morning, everybody. My name is Fred Schmidt. I'm the guy you can see on the right there, a little older than the other two guys. And we're really enthused. We have a very experienced team here for Top Agent Nation. And I'll give my introduction in a second. With us, we have Robert Kramer. Here's my introduction. I'm 43 years in the commercial real estate business. Started off my first 22 years with CB Richard Ellis, and then moved to a small boutique firm that we sold to Johnson Controls, which ultimately was sold to CB Richard Ellis. So I ended up back to home. And I ended up spending 15 years with Realogy, which is called Anywhere Real Estate now, and worked very closely with the residential brands. And I ran Coldwell Banker Commercial. So I've been involved in commercial real estate operations on a local, regional, national, and global basis on all facets. Of my 43 years, I'd say about 20 years were as an agent. So sitting there in the cubicles or doing the day-to-day business, just like all of you, and been very, very involved in training and gearing up people, managing teams, running a team, and all that stuff. And we'll talk more about that as we go through the course of the hour. So with that, let me turn it over to my colleagues. Here's Michael. Go ahead, Michael.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, depending on where you are coming in from. I am the founder of the National Commercial Real Estate Association. And basically, you can kind of see my bio there. I was a residential real estate agent for years, and I was doing 100 deals a year when I was introduced to commercial real estate by somebody giving me a referral saying, hey, can you help me on this commercial deal? And I fell in love with commercial real estate, and that's how I got into commercial real estate and had a lot of success with commercial real estate and ended up opening up Keller Williams franchise in Long Beach, California, and had about 2 other offices. We grew and grew and grew, about 600 agents. And then about coming up on 10 years here, I looked back and 10 years ago and said, gosh, I can't keep up with all this, what do you want to do? And I really wasn't liking being a broker of record and managing all the agents. And so I decided to pursue the National Commercial Real Estate Association, mostly along with some sales along the way. So that's pretty much my background and how I got here today.
Thank you. Robert?
Yeah, I've been in the business 18 years, so not quite as long as you gentlemen. But I came in right out of college, real estate degree from North Texas. Jumped into a boutique here, leaned into commercial day one. I think I did residential for 2 months. It wasn't about it. not my world. And then I fumbled through. I failed with the best of them. Went through 2008, 9, 10. Obviously, I did everything because I needed to, out of necessity. I became a generalist because at the time I was like 25, 27, 28 years old and needed to make money. But with that being said, it led me to create Learn Commercial because I didn't have the training that I thought I needed and wanted as I exited the 2008, 9, 10 fund. And so I did create that. I still do a lot of real estate brokerage. We probably do anywhere from 20 to 70 million a year, just depending on which deals we're working. We do one-on-one coaching. We group coach with Michael Simpson here. And yeah, it's been a fun ride. I've grown. I was with KW Commercial as well. I ran an office there. We grew that to the largest in the company at one point. And then switch gears. But yeah, I'm a lifer. I love commercial real estate, very passionate about it. Like helping people who want to help themselves. And here we are.
Well, thank you, Robert and Michael. And with that being said, you have, I think collectively, if my math's correct, probably close to 100 years of just commercial real estate services experience on the phone or on this Zoom call right now. So that's a lot of information and very diverse backgrounds, I might add. We're all different parts of the country, different geographies, and different ways of becoming successful in this business. And I think that'll be illustrated during the course of this discussion. I'll kick it off, and I think it's important. There's the book Emotional Intelligence, for those of you who are familiar with it, and I would submit to you, if you haven't read it, it's a pretty good book. It's leading self, leading others, leading teams, and also how you interact. But I think over my 43 years, I've always looked, there are 4 key attributes that I have found that for successful salespeople. And by the way, it didn't matter what your background was. If you embodied these attributes, I have found the people to be generally, or almost 99% of the time, very successful. One is, and I'll let Michael and Robert speak about this after I'm done. One is positive mental attitude. Okay, you hear about PMA. but not just a positive mental attitude. That means your ability to get along with others and be likable. Okay. And in this business, I have found in sales in general, in this business, this is a sales business, if people don't like you, they're probably not going to want to do business with you. Okay. So that positive attitude reflects in a lot of other aspects, but also a little bit, we'll talk a little bit inside your head. How you speak to yourself is just as important as how you speak to others. And so not beating up on yourself too much, being positive, being nice to yourself is just as important. So a positive mental attitude is one key aspect. Okay. By the way, these are all equally important. The second one is grit, persistence, the ability to overcome obstacles, to keep going even when you're down and out, but also to know when to stop. Okay. There's that aspect to this too. So there's the grit and the persistence that you talk about. The third is core values and ethics. Okay. And that is being true to yourself and honest with yourself. Again, this gets into a little bit in the internal discussion. The ethics are a given, in this business and everything else, but it's how you deal with yourself and the telling truth to yourself, which is the hardest thing to do in a lot of aspects. Okay. And then also, again, that ties in with the positive attitude. And then the fourth, and here I am sitting in a hotel room on a Zoom call, talking to people all over the United States. 5 to 10 years ago, that this didn't exist. So lifelong willingness to learn, right? And to accept technologies, to understand them, and that means being open-minded. Okay. It doesn't mean you have to accept it all, but you need to be willing to embody new ideas, new technologies, and new ways of doing business and employing that for yourself. So for instance, I'm using artificial intelligence. You probably guys have all heard about it. I'm sure we'll talk about it a little and everything else. I have all my proposals, presentations, my sales materials. Well, I use ChatGPT 4. I've used it's fantastic. It's been great. I just take my materials, put it in there, it's give me a summary and everything else. So it's just embodying technologies and doing those things. I'll be quiet now, but let Michael and Robert, love to hear your thoughts and feelings about what are the personal attributes and whatever else you guys feel is necessary. So go ahead, whoever wants to go.
We talk a lot about that on our group coaching calls as well, because it is so important, especially during difficult times like right now. People either get imposter syndrome or they have feelings of inadequacy and where do I get my lead? I don't know how to start. There's just a lot of mental victim self-talk, unfortunately, and it's not good. Your subconscious is so much more powerful than we give it credit for. That's why, that positive thoughts, positive thinking. I write my goals on my window and on my bathroom mirror. Every day I walk out, I see my goals, where I want to be. And that's just not business goals, health goals, goals with my kids. So I 100% agree. And I can't stress knowing your audience. I mean, you already said people need to like you. Well, a lot of it is we want to like the people we work with as well. And taking the DISC profile test or something similar to me is so important, because you get to know how others see you, how you should see yourself, how you interpret things, and then who you're speaking with. I mean, talking to a high D versus a high S is so different. And, once you realize who you're speaking with, you can navigate that conversation so much more efficiently. So just getting a really good grasp of those concepts is fantastic. And of course, the self-talk is key.
You bring up a good point when you're selling to a client and knowing your personality. And by the way, in the emotional intelligence, I don't know if you're referring to that test, but there's a personality test that you take. And by the way, there's no right or wrong. It's more how you're made up. So in other words, like Michael, I know he does a lot of investment training and investment work and everything else. And that tends to be an analytical type of person, a numbers person. I'm not saying Michael is, by the way, he's very good at what he does beside that. But I tend to be a people person. I like to talk and, use personality and engage. But if I'm selling to Michael and he's analytical and everything, and I know that, or if I'm dealing with a CFO of a company, I better be willing to speak to numbers, and because that person's not going to, I can do all the selling and personality stuff in the world, but that's not going to be effective with that personality type. Okay. They want to see proof. They want to see the information, and they want it in black and white. So you need to understand. And sometimes you're in a room full of clients where there's different makeups, and you need to understand that as personality. So that's a great point, Robert. It really is. Michael, sorry.
Yeah, it is a great point. And, I mean, I could go on and on about that topic, but I won't. But I'll just add that, we don't always go into a meeting of any kind with that in mind. We go in the meeting with our own agenda, usually thinking, here's what I want, here's what I'd like to see come out of this meeting. and we're thinking solely about ourselves, we're not thinking about them, and we really need to be, because I should be paying more attention to what personality style you are, Fred, or you are, Robert, so that I can make sure I'm mentally shifting my brain to communicate using your personality style. I mean, what a great point. I see my good buddy Keith here. Hey, good to see you, man. I haven't seen you in a while. Miss you. I'm moving closer to you. I don't know if you've heard that yet, but I'm gonna get down. That's one of my spots I want to get to. You guys, I have like a slide, and I won't sit here and bore you with a bunch of big long slides show today, but just for the point, since Fred did the fourth, I've kind of got 7 things that I talk about on a regular basis, and I think it might save you a little trouble if you guys don't mind me sharing my screen here, and save a little trouble with having to take notes and stuff. But these are just basic laws, and I remember I learned some of this stuff from Chris Heller. Some of you guys might know that name. Chris Heller was a KW guy, Orange County. I think he was doing about 500 deals a year, #1 agent in Orange County. He was the president of KW there for a little bit. Really good guy. Really love this guy. High D, speaking of personality style, I mean, he's no I whatsoever. He's just a brick wall. But that guy's a machine. And I called him one time when I had the offices in Long Beach in the area, and said, "Hey, will you come up and do a class for us, do a quick seminar for us?" And he said, "Sure." And I said, "What's your best stuff, Chris?" And he goes, "Oh, I like a mindset." And I'm like, "Mindset? God, that's the best you can bring, you know?" And he's like, "Michael, it doesn't matter if they don't know, if they don't do what they know they're supposed to do. It does, none of it matters, right?" And so, because is it that we don't know what to do, or is it that we don't do what we know we're supposed to do, right? I'll say it again. Is it that we don't know what to do, or is it that we don't do what we're supposed to do? And it's the latter. So it's that mindset. Your mindset is so powerful, especially right now in this environment of negativity. And it's challenging, isn't it? You know, it's a challenging time for our industry right now. Let's face it. But that mindset, let me tell you this, when I got into real estate in the 90s in Long Beach, we had the market crash. The S&L savings in California died. Aerospace went away. We had the riots. We had floods. I was writing an offer on the hood of a car because it was like COVID 1.0. All the buildings were shut down because of the riots. And a tank was coming by as I'm writing the offer. And I'm looking up at the buyer like, is this going to be a problem? You know, and he didn't say anything. And so I kept writing the offer. But mindset, my mentor at that time came to me and said, you know, you don't know any better than this. This is all you think the market is. And you don't know how hot it was and how good it was before this, and that's good for you. You just keep your head down. Don't listen to any of these other agents that whine and cry and gripe, and you just go do what you got to do, and you're going to continue to make a lot of money and do really well. And I was so grateful for that tip, because that's exactly what I did. And I think that these these 7 immutable laws here, I can blast through them very quickly so we don't take up too much time. But this is really the backbone of our industry, and any business. To me, you've got to have conversations on a daily basis. And we talk about having 6 to 8 conversations every day. And almost every room I go into, I'm a coach, obviously, and Robert, you heard, is one of our coaches, and he's phenomenal, by the way. I love working with Robert. Uh, any room that we go into, we can poll the room and say, how many of you are having 6 to 8 conversations a day or more? And the agents that are having more or having those 6 to 8 conversations are doing well. And the agents that say, oh gosh, no, I'm not quite getting there, or I'm not doing any conversations every day, I'm not lead generating every day, they're the ones who are struggling. So it's just tied, your whole business. I could stop right now. Our whole business is tied to the amount of conversations that we're having on a daily basis. And then, of course, how good you are, what you say, who you're contacting, you know, the database that we're working in, of course, all that stuff. You guys know all that stuff. But if we just say to ourselves every day, let's get our 6 to 8 conversations in, it's going to the rest is going to take care of itself. And then we have systems. So what we do is we systemize our business, and those are going to help us generate leads. And then we use scripts to convert. So we use systems to generate leads, and then we use scripts to convert. So like, here's some examples of the systems, how you systemize your business. Grid system might be for sellers. An internet system might be for buyers. Sphere referral. Now, what does that mean? It means we all know we should be in touch with our past clients in Sphere, but I'm talking about automating it, systemizing it, get out of the way so that it happens. Because if it's up to me, it's going to break down at some point. So this is what I'm talking about when I say systemizing your business. And then you just drop in these different sources of lead gen into your system, and then you automate it so that it's happening on a regular basis. And that's what we're talking about here. So I'm just kind of zipping through this, you guys. And then a budget, we want to have a budget of 10% of our desired GCI. So we should have, if I want to make 500,000 GCI next year, I should budget 50,000 just for marketing alone, right? So we should have a budget, P&L. Of course, we should all be working off a profit and loss and have a budget. I'm surprised how many agents I meet don't have a budget. They don't have a P&L. They don't have a schedule. I'm like, are you a business owner? Or are you, working for somebody are you being an employee? Right? And so we want to treat our business like a business. And number three, delegate everything except the four high dollar activities. So write this down. The four high dollar activities, some of you guys have probably heard this: list, sell, negotiate, prospect. List, sell, negotiate, prospect. Those are the four high dollar activities. That's what we get paid to do, guys. Is that, nobody can really be out there taking listings at the level we are unless we've got a listing specialist on our team, a buyer's agent. We've got to be writing those offers and working with those buyers unless we have a buyer's agent or a showing agent. Nobody can be prospecting at the level that we are unless we have cold callers on our team, which I've had, or door knockers on our team. So those are our jobs: list, sell, negotiate, and prospect. Nobody really can be negotiating at the level that we do unless you've got a really good manager on your team or negotiator. So negotiate, delegate everything except those four high dollar activities. Those are your things to do every single day. And back to the calendar. If someone's struggling or not making the amount of money that they'd like, just go look at the calendar the last couple of weeks and say, okay, where am I spending my time? Am I spending my time on those four high dollar activities: list, sell, negotiate, prospect? And you'll see the holes are right there that, oh no, I'm not. I'm spending time working on the deal. I'm working on the pending. I'm working on a flyer. Delegate that stuff. There's so many virtual assistants out there now that are good, that are reasonable. There's no reason for us anymore. There's no excuses to not be delegating that low dollar activity. Think about it just for a second, and then I'll get off this one. If you want to make $100,000 more per year, do the math. 100,000 more per year is about 45 bucks an hour with a couple of weeks off throughout the year and some weekends and things like that. That's $45 an hour, guys. So if we're doing $15 an hour work, $20 an hour work, we're saying to ourselves, well, I guess that 100,000 isn't too important to me. See, so what this does when you go through this is it kind of feels like a push, like somebody's pushing you a little bit, and that's kind of what it's supposed to be. To me, you want somebody who's tapping you, saying, "Look, let's go," right? We don't want somebody saying, "Oh, it's okay. It's okay if you're broke and you're not making the amount of money that you need to be making." That's not okay. Let's do something about this. Here are your answers right here are these 7 immutable laws. If you follow them, you can get out of any rut. You can increase any business as much as you like. And then I'll wrap it up very quickly here. 5, 4 is unique interest piquing messages that separate you from everyone else. So I have a list of those. I've got a bunch of those, liners that we can use to get in front of people, rules to follow and hoops to jump through, right? You guys all do this, I'm sure. I know Keith does. I know Robert does, and Fred does. It's rules. We don't just do anything for anybody anytime. We have rules like, hey, let's get together on a Zoom, or let's have you sign something to protect the commission. Let's have rules that we follow and hoops to jump through. Model, action, focus. It's what you guys are doing right now. You're learning from, I'm guessing you don't just show up for just because I'm here today and Robert's here today and Fred. You guys probably show up on all these types of training events. I know Keith is a lifelong learner and he models everybody. He's having a ton of success. So you model people who have already gone where you want to go, and just do what they suggest and follow those disciplines. Last one is confidence and control, right? Get your business where you want it, feel really comfortable with it and very confident with the way you operate your business. And then tell people, this is how I do my business, and don't let them tell you how to do it any differently, right? It's like the brain surgeon where we go in to have our brain looked at and we say, well, I don't think you should do any of that way, doc. I think that one of my friends told me that they did it a little bit differently, right? And we would never do that. So the same thing here with the real estate space is don't let people tell you how to run your shop and how to run your business. but be comfortable with where it is too. So I kind of just jam through that for the sake of time. I don't want to hog the show here. But those are some basic laws that I think are real important.
Thank you, Michael. And that was a good overview and a good, and the point being, having a system, a way to follow up, a way to contact clients. We covered the 4 personality traits, the key attributes that we think are the people that are there. Michael had a system and a methodology here overall. I'd be remiss in not saying to all of you, feel free, and Alejandro, if you have questions or you want to raise your hand or whatever, feel free to interrupt us and we'll be glad to respond to it as we're going here, because we all get on a roll. As you can tell, all of us like to talk and we all like to we could, which is great though. Okay. But anyway, feel free to raise your hand and ask questions. Okay. Robert, anything you'd like to add to that, to what Michael said, or
Yeah, I mean, he touched on a lot of different points there. I mean, when I'm talking to people, especially when they're struggling, Michael's right. What have you been doing? And most of the time, they already know what to do. They just need an accountability, someone to kick them in the butt, which is tough being an entrepreneur, because unfortunately, most people actually aren't an entrepreneur. They're actually an employee who happens to have an LLC and call it a business, because they don't have a business. If they get hurt, there's no more business. With that, and then on the follow-up stuff, I cannot stress the FU money I tell people is in the follow-up. I mean, if you have 2,000 people in your database, you can't follow up with 2,000 people a month. You need some automation to get your name and your face back in front of them. And he said, talk to 6 to 8 people. I'm almost right there. I tell people, I don't want to kill you with 25 or 100 like Eminem. Go talk to 5 new people a day and ask for business. That's 25 a week, right? 100 a month, 1,200 a year. If you do that for 2 years and follow up every single month, if you don't get business and fail by accident, you get out. I mean, just run away.
Uh-oh.
we lost Robert there. All righty, he'll come back in a second, so we'll pitch in while he's doing there. But I think to pivot off the point that Robert was making, and let me take a step back from this, because for those of you new to the business, there's really and gearing up salespeople always have done this throughout my career, and myself included. There's 3 levels of knowledge that you need to have to be successful in this business. There's market knowledge, which is understanding everything about the marketplace, demographics, zoning, approvals, all the things that impact the value of real estate, except for real estate. Okay. There's having that knowledge. Okay. There's product knowledge. What is the product group that you're now? If you're a generalist, and it means you're in a pretty small market, but what is the product knowledge that you have? Meaning, are you an office broker, industrial, retail, multifamily investments, all the different things? Understanding that product line, particularly if you're in a larger market, it's knowing a market or a geography and working your way out, okay? And then technical knowledge, which is the language of the business. And that's negotiations, legal, all the different things. So product, market, and technical. Why am I emphasizing knowledge first and investing that in your mind? Because that gives you, particularly if you're gearing up or you're getting going, that gives you the confidence to do the different elements that Michael and Robert are talking about here, okay? Because all of us have started out in a business by having superior knowledge, then you can apply that to the client. It gives you confidence, okay? And then I have a system is actually called the 3-9 model, and it was developed when I was at CBRE way back when. And what happened was, believe it or not, when I started at CBRE, there were only 33 offices in the United States in 1980. And by the way, my first year in the business, interest rates were 18%. So I'm dating myself a little bit here, okay? So talk about negative news, not getting out, all that good stuff. And I remember my mentor, and I was very fortunate, as a former IBM executive, said to me, don't listen to the news, don't pay attention to they call it putting blinders on, okay? And I think in this day and age, when we're all getting bombarded by all these different sources, and the news is generally negative, by the way. If you look at any news, it's typically negative. You don't need to, you want the weather, look out the window, okay? You know what I mean? Like, you don't need to have all that information coming into your head, because it creates a negative atmosphere. So I'm not saying you shouldn't be aware of what's going on in our industry and the clients you have in the businesses, but getting totally deluged with this doesn't necessarily help your mental attitude, for all of us, I might add, okay? So there's the 3 levels of knowledge. And then the other part of this, and it's interesting, the 3-9 model, basically, we went to a group of behavioral psychologists, and they analyzed our sales processes for individuals, for all, because their whole offices are opening as the classic S curve. You fill the pipeline, you get your clients, then you win your clients, right? And then you fulfill the business. And as you're fulfilling the business, nothing's filling the pipeline, right? So it's the classic S curve in sales. A lot of industries go through this. And a 3-9 model, and you can write this down, it's going from left to right, 3 boxes. You're always sourcing the business. The pipeline's your lifeline. That's what Michael and Robert have been talking about. You're converting the business, which is the proposals, presentations, the relationships, the things to develop, the follow-up that Robert was talking about, and then you're fulfilling the business. And those 3, source, convert, execute. And by the way, this is a teaming model. I've run my teams, and this is right out of CBRE's playbook, by the way. Okay, so I've been using it for over 40 years. Source, convert, execute. Okay. And the skill sets required in each one of those boxes are different. Okay. So fulfilling of the business, that's doing the deals we're talking about here, is a whole lot different than the sourcing. Okay, believe it or not. Now you need to know that part to be able to source effectively. So they pivot off of each other. And deploying yourself, whether you're a local office, regional, national, or global, you're basically going to be doing that. Source, convert, execute. Your pipeline's your lifeline. That's that first group. And so if you're asking me where I spend my time, money, and effort, it's always in that pipeline, what Robert and Michael were talking about there. Robert, we lost you a few seconds ago there. I don't know if you're back on, if you can hear us. All right. So go ahead.
Yeah, hey, real quick before you flip it back. So I know, Robert, I know we're going to go back to you with the follow-up. We have such a great point. I just want to blend in, though, add that, you mentioned be careful about watching the news so much, right? And all the time. The other thing that I would say to that I see now, which I just shake my head every day about, is social media, is like, oh my gosh, the things that agents are doing on social media. And remember, people are watching you, folks, not you guys here, but I mean, just look at what a lot of people do on social media, whether they're debating, arguing, fighting, getting vulgar. I mean, you name it. I've actually seen now, there's some new laws going around. There's some new rules with NAR. So if anybody has any residential type of backgrounds and they're affiliated with NAR in any way, you got to be careful about what you do on social media, because there's rules about it. And I've seen people get in a lot of trouble for just me saying something to Robert that somebody thought was offensive, right? So be careful about that. Just be careful about social media and what you're putting out there in general. So, but getting back to the follow-up, I think that's such a huge topic point you were making, Robert. So go ahead.
Where did I get kicked out?
You were just finishing up on your follow-up. So yeah, and you got a little louder. Your volume's got to go up a little bit. Right?
Oh, yeah. I think, the follow-up is such a big thing. That's where all the money is. Because if we're calling 100 people a week, 100 people every month, the likelihood of more than 1 or 2% needing or knowing someone who needs something this month it's low. It's almost like internet leads, right? You get 2-3% conversion rate. Well, it's probably about the same. So the only way to get that business over the long haul is keep the follow-up. I can't tell you how many millions of dollars we've closed 14, 18, 24 months later, where they resurface and want product. So yeah, the follow-up is where it's at, but you got to put the legwork in day one. And I will mirror what Michael just said, that the news and the social media stuff. Luckily I'm not part of NAR, so I don't have to worry about any of that. But I think it's good and bad. People are being nonsense. I think people think they can be influencers and make money being an influencer instead of selling real estate. So they drop the professionalism and the ethics, so to speak. And a lot of them think money follows attention, which it does, but they're getting the wrong kind of attention on social media. And the only good side of that is if you do it well and you're your true authentic self, you will attract your tribe. You will attract the people who want to do business with you. You will attract the people who will like you. So there's a tasteful way to do it on social media, but far too many agents are just looking for that attention.
And I think applying that knowledge we were speaking about earlier, in other words, your market expertise, your information, putting it out there, you give to get, right? And if you give something to people, it's there. I will also say to you, to the point about follow-up, we call it the 5 touches. You generally, 80 to 90% of sales are made after the 4th or 5th touch or contact with a client. And there's proven statistics, been here for generations, that most salespeople, 2/3 of them give up after the 3rd touch. The 4th touch, it's 80%. So in other words, it's having a system in place, a CRM system, Michael's and Robert's type of system, whatever the system is, applying that over time. It's consistent, persistent contact with the market over time. Again, we're speaking to a lot of things here that are a lot of you know already. Okay, so there's no big secrets here. Okay, this is not, we're not giving you the keys to the kingdom, so to speak. I will say on the conversion side, so there's the sourcing, conversion, and everything else. If you're more senior, and for the senior level people that are here, working on your presentation and proposal skills. I used to go into our offices and I was always big on that with the intermediate and senior level salespeople, is being in the arena. And I was always amazed sometimes, like just because you've been presenting the same way for the last 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years, it may be old, it may be rusty, or you're doing it the same old way. So developing and honing those skills is extremely important. Okay. This medium we're on right now. Okay. I've probably over the last 4 years, and I do corporate services work. I have 3 businesses. I have coaching and counseling for senior level people, and then corporate services, multi-market occupier representation. I have a team that we do that type of work. When you're on a call like this, you have about half the time that you would have if you're in a room with a client. And I'd say about half my business development calls now are what used to we call first round meetings, which is eyeballing the client, getting in the room with them and everything else. That's kind of flipped now, where a lot of clients want to do the Zoom call and then get in the meeting with you. So it's a very different world, at least in my world, than what I've been doing. And my point is, you need to get to the meat fast. You got to get there quickly, and you got to jump off quickly. Okay, on a Zoom call, you have about half the time you would have in a face-to-face meeting. And so that's a set of skills. You got to get to their world, their needs, their elements, and understand that. Okay, there's all sorts of other things you need to learn on how to present through a YouTube, how I'm looking at the camera, my distance from the camera, how far my head is, all those different things that go on. And then when do I go to my visual cues, those types of things. Now, interestingly enough, my win ratio or kill ratio, I won't say kill ratio, is about the same. Okay, which is, and I'm old school. Okay, so let's talk about learning and everything else. But a lot of clients are very comfortable with that. And the point being, you need to, in this business, particularly if you're senior level or medium level, really pay attention. We generally you win by an inch, not by a yard. Okay, if you win by a yard, you're already there, or the other competition was already there ahead of you. So it's how to gain that inch. I would submit to the senior level team leaders and people that you really need to pay attention to. Okay, so Robert, Michael, any thoughts on that, on presenting and things?
Well, yeah, sure. I've been pretty fortunate in my career, because early on I did the cold calling and networking and whatever it took, right? I got in survival mode. I wasn't leaving today until I got a lead, that type of mindset. Then 2008, 9, 10 happened. I wanted to figure out a smarter way to work. And what worked for me was I used the army of residential realtors. I made it a point to go meet as many residential realtors, go cater to them, make them my client. And by doing that, I get 3 to 5 leads a week. And I've been doing so for a long time. So in 18 years, I'm not joking, I've probably only done 5, maybe 7 listing appointments in my entire career. I go in, this is my listing. It's also mine to lose. I don't second guess it. I don't give a marketing pitch. I say, this is fantastic. So glad you bought it. Let's rock and roll. You ready? That's it. And I really go in super confident, and 95% of my business is by referral. So I've already got my foot in the door. They've already sent over saying, you can trust Robert. He's a great agent. He gets deals closed. Here's some background on Robert. When I go in, I mean, I've been very fortunate with that. And when I do coach people, I hound them on go with the low hanging fruit, go find the army, go give them value, and they will reciprocate. That's worked for me very well, and I love it.
Michael?
Yeah, guys, I've got like 5 little bonus things I want to give you before I get out of here today, and I know you guys are going to be jumping here soon too. And as we're doing that, just remember, you guys, tell us how we can help you, before we go. I know there's different ranges of expertise here, and so some of you guys are doing very well, and just here to learn a little bit more, and some of you might be new. I mean, I don't know. So let us know before we go, what can we do for you? What's one thing you'd like to take away from us before you go today? And I would also just add to Robert's comment that, I built the whole NCRA off of that concept, Robert, of going through residential agents to get business. I mean, it's just an absolute gold mine for sure. So what a great point that is. Just 5 little quick things here that I added. Well, I added this, I think, a year or two when the market started to shift. So these are some things that you can do just to kind of tie down what we can do to really do well and thrive in any kind of market. One, lead generate. We can't say that enough, right? We've got to do that every single day. And there's no more excuses. We used to be able to get away with not doing it every day. Those days are gone. You don't lead generate every day. You're going to be in trouble unless you are an established commercial agent. It's a little different. And then tell everybody, here's what I'm doing. So what I did when my first market shift experience came along in the early 90s is I told my wife, my kid, my daughter, my assistant, everybody on my team, I said, I'm now going from 2 hours a day to 3 hours a day. So if you see me doing anything but lead generating during this time, I need you to kick me in the butt, right? And they loved it. They were all excited about being able to hold me accountable. My daughter, same thing. I told her, hey, I got to do this now. It means I'm going to be coming home an hour later every night. I'm sorry, but I know you want that bike, and I know, babe, you want the new kitchen and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, yeah, it's okay, daddy. Just come home later. It's fine. Just get us that, do what you got to do. And this is huge. And I've been here more than once, where that debt, just piles up on us. And, when these interest rates jump, like they have, it's just a killer. And to see people, and you can help your clients too with these things, right? Help them get this done because it's not that easy to do. And you start with just that one big whopping card, get it paid off, and then that money you were using on that, you apply to those other cards. You just make it a mindset to get out of debt. Any high interest rate debt, people are paying 20, 30% interest. It's just nuts. And you could never get out of that. And the weight, I've been there. I'm telling you, I've been there like 3 times with this, where it just snuck up. I'm like, holy cow, how did that happen? And then you've got to get out of that debt. So get out of that at all, no matter what. Cut all unnecessary expenses, guys. Look at your P&L. Everybody should have a profit and loss right now in a budget. I've said that before. And we should just look at it. And then if we're looking at it, we're tracking what we're doing. Oh gosh, I am spending 25 bucks a month on Starbucks, and do I really need to do that? And I'm spending 100 bucks on this subscription. I forgot, right? Do I really need that? And just track your dimes, track your dollars, and watch every penny and get that P&L to where you're operating on just a lean, mean budget. Um, Bonus slides, a disciplined or die. So we've got to have scripts, role play, schedule every day. So it's just operating like a business now. And that is, again, before when the market was hot, we really could kind of get away with not doing these things. Now you've got to absolutely be really good, the best you can be. I mean, think about it. Every conversation we have is a potential commission. And if we started saying, what's your average commission in your market? What's your average sales price? It's going to be significant. It's going to be probably 25, 30,000 or more in some cases. Well, are you going to not use scripts and have really refined presentations to convert those leads? Or what are we talking about? Are we crazy if we're not doing those kinds of things? We want to be the best that we can be. We want to be like the NFL athlete that keeps going to spring training, right? They don't go to spring training to learn new things. They go to hone their skills and to get just perfect, at their skill set. That's why they do those things. And that's what the way we need to be as well. We need to make sure that we are being the best that we possibly can be in every conversation and every presentation. It's so important that we're doing that. And then the last one is just diversify your lead generation strategy. Have multiple systems, multiple streams of income coming in, and then make sure we're using a CRM. Again, we used to be able to not have to do that and work through that CRM, but in today's world, you've got to be really good at using a CRM and funneling your business and your lead management sources through that CRM. And if you're like me, I'm not very good at that. I have an assistant that does it all. And when she's on with me on my calls, I defer to her all the time. I'll say, hey, who touches the CRM? I never go in there other than just to do some very basic stuff because I don't like it and I'm not very good at it. But we have a killer CRM and a killer management system, not because of me, but because of that CRM and our team. And you really want to spend some money on it if you're saying, gosh, I'm not very good at it. Well, then spend some time and some energy at getting somebody on your team that can help you with that CRM. It's worth it. It will be worth it. You'll pay for that person 10 times over with those CRMs. So that's it. I won't, talk too much, but those are my 5 little bonus points there.
You brought up some great points there about on the personal debt levels, and like you said, we've all been there, being in straight. Look, our lives, if you're in straight commission sales, your life is a gamble already. Okay, now I can't think of too many. There's two types of capital. There's the capital that you have the actual dollars, and then there's the opportunity cost, which is your time, right? And so I can't think of any other business that has a better return on its time for a risk reward ratio than this. Having said that, you need the place to gamble. Your life is already a gamble doing this business. So the point being, the more you can set up your personal affairs that are very, I think all of us, I would wager to say, all three of us, having been through what we've been through in our careers, our personal setup is very conservative relative to a lot of other people because we've been, what you're doing day to day is always a gamble to begin with. So I'm very risk adverse in my personal finances and things of that nature because of that. Okay. And that's a great point to make. All right. And it's very hard to sell if you're desperate.
Mm.
Got to be able to walk through. You have to be. My grandfather, who's was a real estate developer and everything, and it was a beauty to me when I was a young boy. You got to be able to walk away from any deal. Okay. And if you can, then you're very effective in doing that. So that's great.
We call that commission breath, Fred, don't we?
Yeah.
They can tell, they can smell it.
Yep. And if you're desperate or you wish it to be, and we've all, you become a volunteer, you work on something because the client's not qualified or you want it to be there, but it's really not there. Okay. So that's one of the earlier points I said about your ethics and being true to yourself. Okay. Truly assessing the situation and understanding. And by the way, that's where coaching and an objective opinion comes in. Okay. Sometimes to say, hey, what about this? Or, why are you spending so much time on this? You don't see the forest for the trees, or you're wishing it to be. A lot of times having an objective perspective is something that helps a lot with regard to that also, I might add. Okay. Robert, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I was just going to say along that point, when I do tell people this is the easiest big money you'll ever make and the hardest no money you'll ever make.
That's a great quote. I like that. So that's wisdom right there. That's pretty cool. Before we go on, let's open it up to the group. Are there any questions, thoughts, things you guys want to add, things you want us to address? You have us all here, so feel free. Anybody have a question? And you have to unmute if you want to do that or anything else. So. No questions there. I'm amazed Mr. Andrews doesn't have a question. He usually has a question every single time I'm on a call. So
I think he walked away for a second.
No, he's right here. I see him.
Oh, he is? Okay.
I love that shirt, buddy.
Thank you. Robert, when do I get to see you, buddy? I miss you.
Well, why don't you come to Texas? We're a better state.
I don't know.
Hey, Keith, I'm going to be doing a 3-day during that September date that you threw out there, but I appreciate that invite, and
Okay.
I'll be closer. So next time around here, I'll be popping down and joining you guys, and I need to network more with you. So because it's a whole new planet over there. So I'll be doing some of that, and I hope you will be patient with me as I slowly get there.
Robert brought up a good point earlier, and I worked when I moved over to Realogy, which is now Anywhere. It was the largest resident. I don't know, 240,000 residential agents in that group. We had 3,500 in the commercial side, but I started marketing with my team, my business development team, to the residential agents, to your point, because we had this huge database. And growing up in commercial, coming from commercial, the commercial guys, how can I put it? They can be arrogant in terms of the way they look at residential agents. But I always viewed the approach of going to them just like they were a client and approaching them that way and treating them with that kind of respect and deference. And I'll give you a real life example. So we marketed directly to them, told them, make one phone call, give us a referral. Now, I generally went after the high-end agents that were doing corporate relocations. So it was a big enough group inside of Realogy that they had the corporate reload groups that were called Cardis agents, if you will, right? That's, if you know that name. And went into one of the Sotheby offices, and I was in New Jersey, and gave a whole presentation about commercial, blah, 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 and make one phone call. And so a year later, a lady called me And by the way, that's the 5 touches, right? You keep coming back to those offices and talking to them and reminding them who you are and everything. It's not just one shot. You keep going back. And she called me a year later and said, I just sold a home, pretty high-end home in Westfield, New Jersey. You guys know where that is, and a very nice community. And it was to the head CEO for Siemens Hearing Aids, Siemens AG. If you know, Siemens is like a bit like GE. Anyway, I went back to my team. I had a tenant rep office team, and I said, hey, we have this opportunity with Siemens. And they said, oh, Fred, Siemens has been all over the marketplace. They've been with, like a typical client, they run with every broker in the market. It's a lead that's worn out. There's no credibility for them in the market and everything else. I said, well, I hear you, but I said, they just reload a German from Germany to run this group, and he just bought him a house and everything else. I got a feeling that this is the real deal at this point in time. So I went back to the CEO and said, look, your company's been all over the market. I said it respectfully, of course, you've been all over the market, blah, blah, blah. I said, whether you sign with us or sign with anyone else, please sign this authorization to represent. And it will tell the market that you're real, that you're engaged a local agent and everything else. So he did. By the way, first and last time it's ever happened with me, he signed the contract right on the spot. Okay. So, and that ended up being a build to suit, $250,000 commission. And we generally pay 20% commissions on the commercial side. Residential is 25%. That agent made one phone call, and we gave her a $25,000. She decided the deal that she refer $25,000 referral for one phone call. So there's things to be mined out there in terms of the residential population. And what Robert's talking about is eliminating cold calling. In other words, you don't have to cold call. You're going to get business that is pre-qualified or coming to you, and that's a great thing. So, there's a lot of ways to skin the cat here.
We've probably paid 7 figures back to residential agents over my 18 years.
Yeah, and it's viewing them with the right attitude, the right respect, and the right dignity. So,
I mean, the last 2 years, we've had an agent make 6 figures on one referral.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So,
You guys just adding on, I mean, I've done a lot of that. I've done classes. They, obviously they eat that up, they love the classes. Marketing. I would take a newsletter that I did, and I had a big 8.5 by 11 color newsletter, 8.5 by 11. So, it's a big newsletter that trifolds. And then I made that black and white, and I would mail those in the color ones to my grid for listings, but I'd also mail about 2,500 a month to real estate agents. And they would get these newsletters from me, and they started thinking, wow, look at this guy, right? So they knew me as a residential agent. In the beginning, they knew me as that only. So they were getting my newsletter going, well, I thought you're residential. Do you know how to do commercial? So when I started putting deals in the newsletters that are just listed, just sold off market, none of those were mine in the beginning, by the way. Those were other agents. So you can do that stuff. Just follow your rules, whether you got to follow wherever you are. But you can do that stuff. And then I started getting them, and they started realizing, wow, he's actually doing these deals, and we know him and we trust him, but we didn't know he could do the deals. So now they started referring lots. So that's a great way. You can actually market to them as well. But I see that Keith has his hand up there, and it looks like there's a question or two in the chat there. So.
Okay, let's go to it.
Me? Hey, Michael, you made a statement when you were going through ended up 6 points, bonus points. The one statement you made was, be prepared. Any conversation you have could translate into commissions or business, correct? You made that type statement a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
I was just going to give one example real quick. Memorial Day weekend, I went to North Georgia. My wife and I stayed at a lodge. It had a winery as well. Woke up Saturday morning, go down for our first bed and breakfast, gourmet breakfast, and the gentleman was there. We met the wife the night before she let us in. And he says, Keith, what do you do? I said, I do commercial real estate. His next phrase was, we want to sell this place. Can you help us?
Oh, wow.
And then I was with him for 3 solid days because we were there for that long weekend. And it is, we have it listed. It's out there on EXP, and it's a winery and a lodge, and 4.7 million is the offering price right now. So just, it's crazy. Minding my own business,
Right. What a great story. I mean, it's so important.
Well, if you
One of the, go ahead, I'm sorry, Robert.
if you do love this business like us three do, we've been in it a long time. I don't care where you are in the country, the world. Everywhere I go, I'm looking at land, looking at hotels, looking at office buildings. I wonder what that lease is for. I wonder what that could sell for. I wonder if I have any buyers for this. I mean, it's a natural occurrence. And if you just start having conversations, people can tell you're passionate about it, and you're going to get those leads like that. It's fantastic.
And sometimes an opportunity comes to you in the form of a challenge or a problem, right? We're in the problem solving business. So a lot of times what looks like a tough situation, that's our job, is to solve that. So it's your way you're looking at things on behalf of a client. One of the questions here is, what CRM are you using that work best for commercial real estate? I'll give a general answer here because there isn't any one. It's the system that you can use the most and rely on the most, that you tap into the data, whatever you work from. Yes, and I've used, now I will tell you, it's as simple as, sometimes you're in the Microsoft family, Microsoft SharePoint or Microsoft Teams. There's different, my one team, we use the Microsoft family, and we actually have client reporting. We do everything inside of that, and it's pretty easy and flexible, okay? So it's whatever system. I've used HubSpot, I've used Aries, I mean, you name it over my career. It's really not any one software, and you can avail yourself, and generally they give you free tests and free usages because they want to get you into their ecosystem. It's whatever you work from the best and that you'll stay with that is good. Okay. But I've used probably 5 or 6 different ones over my career. I don't know what you guys' thoughts are. I'm sure you have some thoughts on this too. So
Yeah, I have as well. I think right now we're using Agent Hub, uh, and we've used Sales Flare. We've used a bunch of them. Top Producer. But you're right. I think, Robert, I think I heard you say it's what's the best CRM. It's the one you're going to use. And Fred, you said it in a different way, but you said the same thing. And that's really the truth. And what I would do if I were, if I were struggling with anything right now like that, whether I was brand new or newer to commercial, or I was trying to figure out how to manage my CRM at a higher level, hands down, I would go find an assistant, a VA. If I didn't have a part-time or full-time assistant, I'd go find a VA for X dollars an hour, and I'd say, look, I'm going to hire you for 2, 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever a week. Doesn't have to be very much. And yeah, I'd like you to manage my CRM. And when he or she says, what CRM do you use? I want to use whatever you would like to use because you're the one who's going to be using it. Now I'll own it. I'm going to have control, right? So that's the other thing about CRM is these CRMs where they're broker controlled and owned. Ooh, be careful because those things can change overnight. And so we should have control of our CRMs and backed up CRMs and things like that. But that's what I would do.
yeah, and I think we're all in the same, cut from the same cloth there in terms of whatever you're going to use in the depth. The only piece of advice I'd give you, because I had a very wide-ranging database of clients, they're doing corporate services for me, close to 14,000 contacts at different levels and everything, is make sure you have it in Excel and you can transfer and download the databases out of your prior system to a new one. And all that data and information goes with it. And that's challenging. That's not easy, but I mean, make sure that you have that capability and that ability. Okay, that's the only piece of advice. Having been stung by that a couple of times, where I've had to have an assistant come in and repopulate a lot of my different things and notes. So you just got to be cognizant of the flexibility of the system you're in case you move to another.
Okay?
Yeah. And that's learning things the hard way, guys. So
yeah, no kidding. I have
go ahead.
I have a coaching student that built the CRM, and I've had 2 of these coaching students that have done this, but one spent over $30,000 building his system. Yeah, and because he just wanted it to be able to do this and this and this and this. So, you can do those things. You don't need to do that, but I am seeing that a little bit more, it seems. And then the other thing that we all need to remember is that you're going to see a lot of change with technology in the future, specifically real estate technology. Look this up. If you Google this, you'll see that over the past 5 or so years, there's been a massive increase of investment into real estate technology, 15 billion, 14 billion a year, where in the previous years, before the past 5, it was more like 1 billion, 2 billion. So think about that. It went from 1 or 2 billion a year to only most recently past few years, 15 billion. So people are looking at real estate technology and saying there's money to be made there. We want a piece. And it's why we're going through a lot of different changes as well in our industry. But just know that you're going to see CRMs, we're going to see all kinds of AI, we're going to see all kinds of new stuff coming our way. So what may be the best today is probably not going to be, a year from now.
I would, and there's a question here from Rybo, best place for automation lessons. And I think, well, to your point, Michael, we'll make this our last discussion here. AI, data is the oil of this century in terms of wealth generation and everything else. But it's not just the data. Everybody can access it. I can sit at my desk and get most markets. I have CoStar, I have all the different systems. I can get market data on just about any market in the United States right now, okay, sitting at my desk. It's the analytics from that and how you distill and synthesize it. Clients have data overload, so it's how you distill it for the client at the point of sale to affect it. That's we're the data transfer people, okay? I will say this for AI, if you haven't done this, and this is about being open minded, you can subscribe to ChatGPT-4 for free, okay? So just get on, sign in. Now I have a lot of content that I've used over my career and everything else. And I'm amazed. Like I had a proposal last day. I was on vacation last week and still am. I had to send an engagement letter. I said, here's my engagement letter. Please do it in this tone. Use the McKinsey style of speaking. Okay. And I need certain pieces of information. Here's the sources that I want you to look at. Like some real estate sources. I don't want you to look at any other sources. Now that's one of the controversies with the AI is sometimes they don't know the sources. So you can say, go look at the MIT real estate information or whatever it is you're doing. And it pulled it right up for me, gave me an outline and everything else. Now, obviously, I had to customize it to make it be my voice. Okay. So you need to make sure your personal touch is in there. But what would take me, Michael, to your point about, and Robert, of a virtual assistant and everything else, what would take me an hour to 2 hours of research was done in about 30 seconds. Okay, and I was able to customize a proposal, an engagement letter, work plan, scope of work, all those different things for a client. And so that's what we're talking about here, okay, is the practical application of it. So for those of you who haven't, I encourage you to at least try it, see it, use it, and know how to query. The way you query it is the key, okay? So, but that's here to stay, and that's a great equalizer, just like the Zoom call is and everything else. So with that being said, Robert, Michael, any last thoughts, guys, or any from the group that you want to share with everyone?
Well, I think for me, it's just follow a schedule and live by that schedule as much as you can. And what that means to me is be present, be in the moment. I have time where I'm intensely at work, and it's work time, it's lead gen time, it's whatever, work related things I'm doing time, and I'm very disciplined about it. And my wife would be the first to tell you I snap when I'm bothered during those times, right? It's like, this is my time to do these things. Leave me alone. Leave me the F alone, right? That's how serious I am about that. But then I also have time when it's, okay, this is fun time. This is family time. This is vacation time. I make sure I get those times in every year, every week, every month, whatever, to get a break, because I work hard and I focus during those work times. And that's the balance, right? And so, so many people just don't make time for themselves anymore, and they don't get vacations and time with their family, and they're just all work, 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 and then you die, guys. I mean, that's not life, to me anyway. And so that would be my final thing, is just, be present, be in the moment, make sure you get a little bit of both and take them seriously.
Yeah, you said that there's
Robert?
a while ago, I heard one of my friends talk on stage, and he said there is no balance. But the way he interpreted that was, when I'm at work, I want to be 100% at work. When I'm done with work, I want to go home and be 100% with my family. I want to shut it down. You see far too many salespeople take phone calls at 7, 8, 9 at night, at the weekend, step out of church, step out of whatever they're doing, because that needs to be more important than setting priorities. Like if I'm with my kids, I'm with my kids. Like work can wait. And if they don't want to work for me because of that, I'm okay with it. So setting those boundaries is a healthy way to run a business. I mean, what other CEO does that?
Right.
Yeah, you both bring up great points, and we'll finish on that. Is the 7 Habits by Kobe, right? And so I remember reading this. Fortunately, early in my career, I had his tapes. That's how long ago I had a cassette tape in my car, so listening to. But one of of the things he says and talk about work-life balance is what you're talking about, your family and everything else. And I can remember my kids were young and everything. And he said, you know, when you pull into your driveway, no matter what's happening at work all day, the problems, the issues, this is my most important part of my day, you know, is the people that I work with, my family, my friends and everything. And these, I'm going to give them all my attention, my love, my understanding and everything else. And I know we're getting personal here, but that's important that they're your support system is an important part of this business as the business itself. And so being in the moment and being with them is a very important. You can reach all of us. By the way, just to finish up, Michael, Robert, myself, well, I think they're going to post our email addresses. My cell phone's 908-377-1616. If any of you want to reach out, Michael and Robert's businesses, they'll be posting here. So with that being said, I want to thank all of you for your time, and we look forward to working with you. And anything you need from us, feel free to reach out. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Okay.
Thank you for having us.
Robert, Michael, take care. Bye-bye.
Have a great weekend.